guys, it's Vicky, and today I am here to share with you all the books I read in the month of February. So I had a pretty ambitious TBR for February. Ooh, sorry, the lighting's a little weird. Okay, let me sit back like this so I don't get weird light spots on my face. February was a little bit of a weird month, slow for me, mostly because we got Morgan, our puppy, at the beginning of February, and so the first couple of weeks of February I just wasn't really reading as much because I was very occupied by keeping an eye on the puppy to make sure she wasn't getting into mischief and all that crazy stuff. So it started out really slow, but then literally the last week of the month I've completed 5 books. So I ended up pulling through at the end. There were still a couple of books on my TBR that I didn't get to, unfortunately, but today we're going to talk about the ones that I did get to. So the first book that I completed in February was Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. This was a Roxane Gay book club pick, her Audacious Book Club. This was the pick for February. And this one centers around 3 people, 2 of which are transgendered. So we have Reese, who's a trans woman. We have Ames, who was a trans woman and detransitioned and is now living as a man, and Katrina, his boss slash girlfriend, that he gets pregnant. So the book centers around these 3 people and them kind of trying to figure out what they want to do in terms of this baby, because when Ames was with Reese, they really wanted a child, and it just didn't happen for various reasons. And so when he finds out that he's going to be a parent, he really wants to include Reese in this situation. Mainly because though he's living as a man, he is struggling with the idea of being a father, because for so long he was wanting to be a mother. And we know that those 2 roles are different in parenting. They just are. And he just saw himself being a mother, not a father. And so he kind of wants to bring Reese in because she understands that struggle that he's having. And Katrina, who is a cisgendered woman who is pregnant, up until she gets pregnant, she did not know that Ames had once been living as a woman. And so she's grappling with that in addition to what's going to happen with this baby. So this book was good. I did struggle a little bit with the plot because I went into it thinking it was going to be something that it ended up not being. I thought that it was going to be a book about these 3 people trying to raise a baby together. And without being too spoilery, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but by the end of the book, Katrina is right at the end of her first trimester of pregnancy. So that's all you're getting. There is no baby. There is no like actual parenting going on. There's a lot of just talking about parenting, motherhood, and whatnot. So that was a little bit, I don't want to say of a disappointment, but it was in the sense because that was like my expectation going in, and that just wasn't what this book was about. What I did love about this though was the various discussions that happened about what it is to be a mother, because like I said, we have Reese, who is a trans woman who wants to be a parent. She wants to have a child. She's good with babies. She loves babies. But because she is a trans woman, she is always having to prove to people why she deserves to be a mother. And it brings up that question, that interesting question of why is it that cisgendered women are never asked that question? They're always asked why they don't want to have kids, because in this society that's kind of the odd thing, like, oh, you're a woman and you don't want kids, but they're never asked why they want to have kids or why they deserve to have kids. And trans women are asked that question constantly. They're always having to prove that they deserve to be parents. So I thought that was a very interesting thing that was talked about in here. And also just the idea of motherhood in general, because you have, like I said, you have Reese, you have Katrina, who's a cisgendered woman who wasn't looking to get pregnant, but she's in this situation. And so she's talking a lot too about what her experience was with her mother and you know, what kind of mother she wants to be and all these sorts of things. So it was a very interesting talk about just motherhood in general. I liked that it also touched on how within the trans community, a lot of times trans women will find themselves mothering kind of like the up and coming generation of trans women because as these people are transitioning and living these new lives, it's almost like they're reborn. And so people that have already been doing it a while or have gone through this similar thing tend to kind of take them under their wing and mother them in a sense. So I thought that that was also very interesting because you do see that in here with Reese and some of the other trans women that she has sort of in her circle. And I think just overall the book just was very, for me, was very eye-opening. I don't think I've ever read a fiction book where the main characters were trans. So for me, this was very eye-opening. It was very interesting. It had me doing a lot of kind of side Googling and research about things because I didn't know. And I think that's a great thing about having books like this, is that it does sort of kind of encourage you to further read and to further learn. So I really liked that aspect. The writing in here, I'm not sure I loved. It was, like I said, there were some great discussions in here, a lot of great conversations between the characters where that's where you picked up a lot of the kind of the commentary going on was the conversations between mainly our three main characters. But there was also a lot of kind of meandering going on. She would go off track for quite a while, and it was kind of like, okay, when's she gonna get back? When's she gonna come back? And then, you know, then she would kind of come back in. So the writing was a little bit, like I said, I wish it kind of would have been a little bit more focused, but overall I did like it. It was very, very straightforward and very, at times very hard, but I did like that part of it. I liked that it was very unapologetic and it was just like, this is what it is, this is what this story is, and you know, like it or don't like it, and I did like that part about it. I think that I will read future books by Torrey Peters because, like I said, this was her debut novel, so I really think that you know, as she progresses in her writing, maybe, you know, it'll get a little bit more focused. So I did enjoy this. I liked it. Great, you know, interesting characters, great themes, and overall I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up for Blackathon, I read The Patriarch by Brandon Massey, and this was for the prompt to read a story about somebody that goes to a new place where there's secrets. And this is a novella about a guy who is a writer, and he's getting ready to propose to his long-term girlfriend, but he wants to know more about his family and his lineage because he has a really, really big family, but he doesn't really know much about them. Like, he knows them, but not kind of like where they came from and that sort of thing, just like his ancestry. So he travels, he lives in, I believe, Atlanta, and travels to Missouri to stay with some family and kind of learn more about himself and his lineage. And he quickly discovers that there is a secret in his family and he wants to get to the bottom of it. And that's really all I'm going to say, because I definitely do not want to spoil what the family secret is, because that will take away all the fun. But it was good overall. I really liked what the secret ended up being. I liked how it was revealed and how it was different from other stories like it. And there was also some cool sort of horror elements in here. There's a few dream sequences and stuff like that that were kind of creepy, but cool, and I really liked. The only thing about this book was I wish it had been a full-length novel instead of just a 100-page novella, because I kind of wanted more. I wanted there to be more story, especially like where the story kind of ended. I kind of wanted it to keep going. So I just wish that there had been more, but this was my first time reading Brandon Massey, and I definitely will be reading more of his stuff. I have one of his full-length books on my Kindle. So hopefully I will be reading that soon. But this one was good. I liked it. It was solid, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I completed the book club pick for Random Reads. That's Bobby and I, our book club over on Goodreads. We, for February, decided to read Brother by Anya Alborn, and this is a horror novel about a guy named Michael who lives in like the backcountry with his family, and his family, they are murderers. They abduct women, torture them, kill them, and then other things. But Michael is a reluctant participant in this whole thing, and he definitely feels like an outsider in his own family. He doesn't want to do this stuff. And then one day he is out with his brother Rebel, and they go into a record store, and he meets a girl, and the girl sort of makes him want to change his ways and maybe get out of this family and get out of this situation. So first of all, I have to say I listened to this on audio, and I absolutely hated the narration of this. But because everything else I was reading and everything I had planned for the month, I had to listen to this one on audio, and I would not recommend the audiobook. It just did not. The narrator's voice and the way he read did not match the tone of this book. I feel like it was he sounded too like prim and proper for what was going on in this book. Although I will say his accents were okay, like when he did like kind of the southern accents, that was fine. But when he was just like narrator, I couldn't stand it. And some of the ways that like he pronounced words, I was like, who pronounces words like that? Like at one point he said, and maybe I'm crazy, I don't know, but he said deja vu instead of deja vu. And I'm like, who says deja vu? Do any of you say deja vu, or do you say deja vu? Because to me, it's deja vu. And I was just like, what is this man saying? So I don't know if that affected my overall enjoyment of this story. This was my second Anya Alborn book, and I did like this. I definitely think that all the talk of it being like super gory, and this was like way like overdone, because to me I felt like it was kind of tame. I feel like it's kind of like the same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre the movie. Before I saw that movie, everyone was like, oh, it's so gory, it's so disgusting, there's so much blood, and oh my gosh. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna make it through this movie. And then you actually watch the movie and you're like, this isn't that bad, really. Like there are definitely horror movies out there that I think are way worse than TCM. And I think that's what happened with this book. I heard this book was so gory and all this stuff, and there's a lot of body horror, and there is body horror in here, but I didn't think that it was like that bad. So for me, it was like, I was actually pleasantly surprised by that, because I didn't want a lot of body horror. I don't like a lot of body horror. Yeah, I don't like it. So that was fine. I think that the story was good, but I think getting into the ending, it was awfully convenient, in the sense that like things had to really line up just so for things to go as they went. So much so that you're like, how could that even happen, really? So though it was like twisted and good, and the ending I was kind of like, whoa, okay, that was messed up, it also was like almost just too convenient, you know what I mean? So I liked this. I really think that my next Anya Alborn, I'm gonna physically read it, because the first two I have now listened to on audio, and I'm wondering if that's affecting my overall enjoyment, because I do think that she's got some good stuff. But for me, this one, like I said, it was good. It had some good horror elements. It had a lot of great atmosphere, but I don't know. There's just something about it that I didn't like fully just like love. So again, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I think I initially gave it a 4, but then after it kind of simmered for a little bit, I knocked it down to a 3, because it just didn't like wow me like I was expecting it to. So it was good. I would recommend it, but don't listen to the audiobook. All right, next up we have what was my favorite read of February, and that is White Oleander by Janet Fitch. And I read this one to fulfill the buzzword reading challenge for the month of February. The buzzword was a color, so white. And this is one that I've had on my TBR a really long time. And I kind of knew going in I was gonna love this. And so I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. This one centers around a girl named Astrid who is living with her mother, Ingrid. And Ingrid is a poet, and she's not the most loving mother. And she ends up killing one of her ex-boyfriends, and goes to prison. So Astrid, I believe at the beginning of the book, she's about 12. She goes into the foster care system in California. And the whole book is her basically going from foster home to foster home. I believe it ends up being like 5 or 6 different foster homes. And what I loved about this book so much was the writing. The writing was so good. It just drew me in right away. The characters, the people that Astrid meets along this journey, because it goes until she's 18, when she's out of the foster care system. So you're with her for, a few years, and those years, as we know, are very pivotal years in a young girl's life. And so she is going through them with these kind of stand-in mother figures because her mother's in prison. And her mother, like I said, is not a great human at all. And she's still trying to like parent Astrid from behind bars. And so in their relationship, you see it sort of evolve and change and become strained. Because obviously the whole reason that Astrid is in this situation and bouncing from house to house is because her mother killed a man. I mean, and it ruined Astrid's life. I mean, so there's a lot of anger there, there's a lot of frustration, but then also she, up until that moment, she really loved her mom and idolized her and everything. So there's a lot of that, a lot of like mother-daughter drama. But what was the most interesting was the people that she came across, and like I said, had these sort of stand-in mother figures, and they all sort of taught her different things about life and about womanhood, and it was just so good. It was so good. It's kind of a depressing book, so you might want to be in the right headspace to read it, but for me, I'm kind of always in the mood for depressing stuff. I don't know why. But I just loved this. The writing, like I said, so good. It's flowery, so some people might not like it, but I really loved it. It was one that I definitely read a lot slower because I didn't want it to end. So that's how you know it's a 5-star read, right? So yes, if you haven't read White Oleander and you think it would interest you at all, you should definitely check it out. It was great. I loved it. 5 stars. Okay, next up I read on audio. I read 40 Acres by Dwayne Alexander Smith. This was another book I read for Blackathon. This one fulfilled like a story that took place on like a vacation type setting or like a decadent place. And this one centers around a young lawyer named Martin Gray who is an attorney in New York. And he is a civil rights attorney, and he wins this really big case, this high profile case. And it kind of is really solidifying that he is an up and coming attorney and he's going to be very successful. It gives him a lot of press, and he gets a lot of praise and everything. And the prosecuting attorney, or was it the defense attorney? I can't remember what they were. I think it was a prosecutor. Is also like a very like well-known, successful black lawyer who basically, after the trial, invites Martin to come to a dinner party at his house and kind of takes him under his wing. And he comes to this dinner party. There's all these other successful black men at this party. And they all kind of get to know each other, and he gets invited to go on this kind of weekend getaway with these guys, where it's like a guys only type of thing. No cell phones, no wives. You just kind of go and relax, and they're going to do whitewater rafting, or so they say. And so he goes because he feels like it's going to do good things for his career. And then he gets there, and this is not a spoiler because all this is on the back of the book, on the blurb. He gets there and discovers that they're all part of this secret society that basically wants to bring slavery back to America. And the way they're doing that is they're going to enslave white people, specifically white people whose ancestors were slaveholders back, when slavery was the thing. And that's how they're going to kind of get their retribution. And Martin is obviously disturbed by this. And so the book is about him figuring out like what he's going to do, because he's here in this area. He's in the place is called 40 Acres, this big place where he goes with these guys. It's in this secluded area, this big mansion called 40 Acres. And so he's kind of stuck there and figuring out like, how am I going to get out of this? Because he feels like if I tell them like I'm not doing this, I don't want to do this, like he feels like they're going to kill him. If he goes along with it though, he's like, I don't want to do this. So it kind of is kind of one of those sort of almost like a survival sort of story. And the first thing I'll say about this book was it was long. It was long in the sense that it took a really long time for Martin to get to 40 Acres and for that part of the story to really take off, because you're seeing not only Martin's perspective, but you see the perspective of some other characters. And so like going in that they're like doing all this background research on him and his lineage to like see if he'd be a good fit for this group. And so they're doing all this, and obviously like Martin has no idea. So, but you're seeing it all. And so you go through all of that before you finally get to like, okay, they're finally going on the trip. So I felt like it took a long time to get to the point. And I don't know if not doing that would have made the book better. I'm not sure, because you did kind of need that background information, but I don't know if they should have spent as much time, if as much time should have been spent showing you that. And then when it gets to the reveal, when it's revealed to Martin what it is, what is going on, what's really going on here on 40 Acres, the whole thing, it didn't seem entirely plausible to me. There were parts of it that definitely I was like, okay, this could probably happen. Like, there could be a place like this somewhere. But then there's also a part of me that was like, this just doesn't seem possible. How could something this big be kept such a secret? It just didn't seem entirely plausible to me. And also just the idea that there was a group of people that felt this way and felt that that was the way to get retribution, was by like enslaving people the way that their people were enslaved. I just don't know if it just didn't seem realistic to me in some senses. But then there's also part of me that's like, well, this world is crazy. You never know. I will say that the end of the book, the last probably hour or two of the audiobook when I was listening to it, I like didn't want to put it down. I really wanted to know what was going to happen, how Martin was going to get out of this situation. So in that sense, it's definitely like a page turner. And it gets pretty intense, but like I said, it just takes a long time to get there. And then of course the way the book ended was like, ooh. It ended on kind of a like sort of note. So, which I kind of liked also. I actually kind of liked. So overall, this was good. I think I would definitely read more of Dwayne Alexander Smith's work. This one just had some pacing issues for me. And like I said, some of the plausibility I struggled with a little bit. You kind of have to, it's a book you definitely have to suspend your disbelief, or you might not like it, you know? If you do that, then it's probably a much more enjoyable story. So yeah, it was good. I liked it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. All right, then the next book I completed was one that I vlogged about. I subscribed to Page One Books. It's a subscription service where you fill out a form kind of talking about your book tastes and what you like, and you can also link your Goodreads to them. And they basically pick out a book for you every month and send it to you. And yeah, that's it. So I did a whole vlog about it, but the book they sent me was Everywhere You Don't Belong by Gabriel Bump. And I basically went over my whole review in that vlog. So if you want to check it out, I would say go check out that vlog. But this is a coming of age book about a young black man growing up in the south side of Chicago, and just sort of the stuff that he goes through growing up living in that area. And then a little bit when he leaves Chicago and goes to Missouri for college and deals with some stuff there too. And overall, I liked this. I really liked the first like 2/3, and then the ending kind of, not so much. But I liked the writing. I liked the characters a lot. So overall, it was an enjoyable book, and I was very pleased with the whole page one experience. I'm excited to get my other 2 books because I did a 3-month subscription. So I'm excited to see what else they send me. But this one was good. It was a win. It was a 3 out of 5 for me. So next up, I continued my read of the Chronicles of Narnia by reading the second book, Prince Caspian. So I'm reading the books in publication order. So this is the second book. And this one deals with our 4 siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, and their return to Narnia. They get magically summoned back to Narnia to help this boy named Prince Caspian, who is the rightful king of Narnia. And his uncle is currently the king. He's a bad guy, and they need to like get the throne back for Prince Caspian. So that's basically the gist of the story. And I really liked this one more than I thought I would. I was pleasantly surprised. I feel like it's a very classic sort of story of like good versus evil. There obviously is still some of the sort of Christian undertones to it, because you kind of have like the 2 factions of people, like the people that believe in Aslan and the way that Narnia used to be, and what, hopefully Prince Caspian will bring back, and then this other group of people who kind of follow the current king. So you kind of have those 2 things going on. You also have a little bit of that, just like having to have faith in something that you're not really entirely sure about. You see that a lot with Lucy in this book, because for a while there she can see things, let's just say, that the others can't, and they kind of have to put their faith in Lucy and what she's about and what she sees. So it kind of, touches on things like that. But overall, it's a great adventure story. There's a great little like fight scene. There's a lot of cute little characters because you have like the animals and stuff. There's dwarves and giants and, all the cool stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good, and I'm excited to read the 3rd book and kind of see what else is going to happen in this series. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. All right, and then I finished out the month by my continuation of Saga. So I read volume 4, and this one it seemed like this one was a little bit shorter than the other volumes, but I really, really liked this one too. Because the whole gist of the series is there is a couple, and it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. The woman is from one planet, the man's from another planet. They're like dueling planets. They're not supposed to be together, but they fall in love and they have a baby, and so they're kind of on the run. And this book, you're kind of starting to see the real stress of that, and their relationship is starting to be affected, and things like that. And of course their baby is getting older. So yeah, I liked the drama of it all in this one. Just the story in general was great. Even the subplots going on are also pretty enjoyable. The artwork, everything. I just love this series. And yeah, I can't wait to read volume 5. This was a 5-star read. I loved it. This series is amazing. All right, guys, so those are all the books that I read in February. I ended up having a pretty good reading month, even though, like I said, it started out super slow, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to read anything this month, but it ended up being pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the books that I read. So let me know down below what you read in February. What was your favorite book that you read in February? I would love to know what everybody was loving. And then obviously if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought of them, because I'd love to chat with you guys about that. So other than that, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching.